Sebastian Gorka is Deputy Assistant to President Trump, Senior Director for Counterterrorism. I asked for his reaction to the situation in Gaza, given UNRWA's criticism of Israel, and after 2 months of Israel blockading food into the territory.
Well, I wouldn't listen to anyone who represents UNRWA. UNRWA is utterly morally corrupt and politically. Its workers have been found actually working with the terrorists and helping to kill innocent individuals simply because they're Jewish. So if you look at the math of simply the gargantuan amount of food that Israel has allowed into Gaza, which would feed multiples of the residents who live there, you have to ask yourself, so where is that food really going? So what's happening in Gaza is the result of the mass slaughter of innocent men, women, and children, the greatest loss of Jewish life since the Shoah, since the end of the Holocaust. And Israel has every right to do what it's doing so that it will never happen again.
Okay. Now, just to be clear, on UNRWA, they have, more than 30,000 staff. There were 9 who were found to have questions to answer and who have been removed. But in a way, the question...
that's 9 too many. I don't think the
Sure,
United
understood.
Nations
But
terrorists.
I wonder,
so
that's
the real story. The real story isn't fake news about starvation. The real story is...
Oh, okay, so you do think it's fake, do you, the starvation?
Stop. No, the real story is UNRWA working in league with the terrorists. That's the real story you guys should be covering.
Yeah. Now, well, one of the things we have been covering is the story of babies, of very young children with malnutrition. Would there be a problem with baby formula going into Gaza? Because that's
I'm not going to talk about this. It's garbage. It's rubbish. There are factors more food going into Gaza than physically can be eaten by the putative population. So I'm not going to buy.
But nothing's gone in the last 2 months, Mr.
You're
Gorka.
interrupting me again. And
I am just to get the facts.
I will terminate this interview. Okay? If you persist in talking about fake news about starvation in Gaza, we are done and we are finished.
Right? Can I ask you then? I want to just establish the facts. But do we accept that no food has gone into Gaza in the last 2 months?
I'm not going to talk about this garbage fake news.
Is it fake news that there's a blockade?
I'm not going to talk about it. If you ask one more time, we are done, Kat. We are done.
Can I quote to you your own colleague, Steve Witkoff? Mr. Gorka?
You're not interviewing Steve, you're interviewing me. You want to interview Steve, I can give you his number.
No. I'm trying to establish what the position of the U.S. administration is.
I didn't come here to talk about Hamas or UNRWA.
Okay. I wasn't going to ask you. I want to.
Typical state propaganda, which is what you guys do. Right. If you want to ask me about the incredible things President Trump is doing in the Middle East, how we rescued another American.
Let's ask about that. Let's ask about that.
I'm prepared to do so, but I'm not going to countenance your propaganda.
So please, can you tell me what is President Trump's policy on Gaza? I mean, he's arrived in Saudi Arabia. Is he going to be talking about Gaza at all? Because it had been said that, for example, Saudi Arabia had wanted a deal where it would normalize relations with Israel, but it would also want recognition of Palestinian state. Do you know what President Trump is hoping to achieve by this trip?
I know exactly what he's hoping to achieve, which is exactly the same as that which he is doing with regards to Ukraine. He wants to end the fighting as soon as possible, ensure that Israel is never again subject to mass slaughter. And beyond that, he would like those of the region to do something in terms of investing in the rebirth of Gaza once the conflict has ended. These are the 2 priorities.
Right. And do you know if he's hopeful of getting some deal on that? Because there have been various plans to put together a technocratic government for Gaza that various countries in the Middle East have signed up to. Do you know if he's going to get any progress on that?
What a silly question. Do I know if he's going to get any progress? I mean, surely doesn't that depend on all the parties concerned? I'll tell you one thing. He is the master of the art of the deal. If anyone can do it, it's President Trump, and he's probably the only person that can do it.
Okay, well, so good. So what does he envisage when you talk about the rebirth of Gaza?
I'm not going to answer silly hypothetical questions.
Well, sorry, it's not hypothetical. You've talked about...
Ending the bloodshed and getting local, rich Arab Muslim nations to invest. It's that simple.
Okay, and is that a prospect as a result of this trip?
Oh my gosh, we're going around in circles. Ask me a meaningful question next, please.
Is President Trump going to go to Turkey to help secure this deal between and the talks between President Zelensky of Ukraine and President Putin of Russia?
He will have members of his team participate in the talks to stop the bloodshed in Ukraine.
Right. And just a final thought. The Qataris are giving a jet worth $400 million. The US Constitution has provisions that no elected official should accept any present from the leader of a foreign state without congressional approval. Is there a problem with this? Because it doesn't look like it's draining the swamp.
Do you ever have pangs of conscience that you are so utterly, completely biased that all you can do is give into your Trump derangement syndrome? Have you ever once said anything positive about President Trump or not knelt at the altar of left-wing ideology?
Is there a response to the question?
Is there a response to my question?
Well, I'm asking the questions here. We're more interested in what you have to say.
Yeah, you know what? I like it when a head of state saves the taxpayer $400 million.
Okay, so it's only a good thing.
That, okay, especially when Boeing has failed to deliver the new Air Force One for years on end, is behind schedule, and afterwards the plane is donated to the presidential library. Weird how BBC doesn't know that. That's because you're not journalists.
Sebastian Gorka, who is Deputy Assistant to President Trump, his Senior Director for Counter-Terrorism.